Hey, I think we're live. Let me know. Can you hear me? The music stopped and I didn't start. So let me know if you can hear me. I just see a weird glitch happening. So hang on. It won't let me make a comment. So hang on, and let me know if you can hear me. Teresa says yes. So I'm assuming yes. Hang on one sec. Sorry for the glitch. Okay, so I think we are here. A rough start, but anyway, we'll blame it on the cold. It is about 10 degrees here. That's about it. So that is crazy, crazy, crazy cold. And with the wind chill, it is below zero. So let me know where you are chiming in from and what the weather is like there. Okay. So again, it won't let me join the chat. So sorry about that. I will answer questions live for you as best I can. Whoo-wee. I don't know about you, but this is great sewing weather. If you're anywhere where the weather is crazy and it's driving you indoors, it's the perfect place to be with your machines. So thank you, Sewing Machines Plus, for having me on Takeover Tuesday today. If you want to learn more about Serger edge finishing, you are in the right place today because I've got some great things to show you and hands-on on the Serger. All right, I see lots of friends here. I see Lisa, Paula, Bobby, Deborah, Leah, Sheila, Connie, Teresa, Brenda, Marianne, Anna, Jenny. Welcome, 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 everyone. Thank you for being here today. So let's do a little recap on what we did last month. Is it a month already? That's crazy, crazy, crazy. I can't believe how fast that went. But we started talking about scarves and we ended up making this really cute little novelty scarf. So this can be worn a whole bunch of different ways. My favorite is just this simple little wrappy technique, and it was made from little squares of knit fabric. Very, very simple. So if you want to check out last month's show on SMP Nation, you will find all the instructions for this. So we were working on the sewing side of the machine, but today we're going to work on the serger. And one thing I love about the serger is it just makes quick work of finishing edges that would normally be time consuming and tedious. So I'd love to know how many of you here in the chat can tell me if you already have a serger, number one. No, so give me a 1 if you have a serger. Give me a 1 and a 2 if you have a serger and you are actually using it. And give me a 3 in the chat if you are just interested in finding out what a serger can do for you. I've seen a lot of 1s here. So for a little bit of background, I've been working with sergers since I was 16 years old, which is many moons ago. And I've tried all different kinds of techniques with all different kinds of sergers. But I have to tell you, 2 of my all-time favorite techniques are just a simple rolled hem and a simple edge finish, because if we don't have the opportunity to finish edges with something like a serger, we then have to finish that raw edge somehow, either by hand. Maybe some of you can do that. The good old blanket stitch is a fun one, but that takes a long time to do. And maybe you finished edges on your sewing machine. So on the sewing machine, we might line something totally, where we take two fabrics, put them right sides together, sew, turn right side out, and then close up the opening from turning it. That's fine, that works. But now we have to have two pieces of fabric instead of just one. We have to have two layers instead of one layer. Another way that we finish edges is with binding. I know my quilter friends in here. Oh, I see a 1, a 2, and a 3 from M. Farno in here. That's an interesting comment. So if we have to do binding, now we've got to either purchase or make our own binding. And in most cases, it's going to be a 1, 2, 3-step process, probably. Sewing it first, turning it, wrapping it, and then stitching it would be the third process. And again, that takes added time, it takes expertise, and it also takes more fabric. So how about having a serger finish where we can finish something with nothing but thread? So today we only have an hour, and we're going to actually make a real quick attempt to make a scarf before your very eyes. So, but I want to give you a little bit of background on some of my favorite threads and some of my favorite techniques. I'm going to show you some samples on that. Now, what I want you to know is that this is not a demonstration of the serger I'm using. I happen to be using the Brother Airflow 3000, which I absolutely am in love with, and I don't use that word loosely. I've worked with a lot of sergers in my day, and when I got my hands on this one, I am a Brother ambassador. I got my hands on this one. I just kept saying wow to myself, because I was so impressed with the mechanics of it. I know that sounds dry and dull, but the mechanics are important. How easy is it to use? How easy is it to thread? And then what kind of stitch quality does it have? And on my list, it hit an A++ on all of those check marks. So again, you've seen there's been a lot of great demos on SMP Nation, on the actual serger, showing you all the different ins and outs of it. Today, I just want to give you, a few things that are going to help you tip-wise for doing edge finishes. So we're not going to cover the whole entire machine, but I think you'll get some really good peeks at it to see what makes it such a valuable tool in my sewing space, and what could make it such a valuable tool in your sewing space. And there are a couple models to choose from that are both Airflow by Brother, so definitely check out Sewing Machines Plus for that. We'll be putting a link in the show notes so that you can click right there and go right to the page if you want to. But they have great prices, and I checked just last night to see what some of the deals were. They have an incredible deal on this particular machine right now, with included luggage, and I think there's one other goodie that's going with it. So make sure you check that out. All right, so why do I love finishing scarves so much with a serger? Well, first of all, I love scarves. They're just one of the great things that you can add to your wardrobe, accessories that can expand your wardrobe, and things that you can make really, really quickly. So for example, get on the right side here, this wrap here, which is from my Wrapped in Embroidery book, which I know we talked about last time, Wrapped in Embroidery. That particular book has 9 different wraps in it, wraps and scarves. And this particular one was a little bit of a challenge, and I'll tell you why. I know you like to know the behind the scenes, but I tend to be a little bit color challenged when it comes to mixing colors together. And again, if my quilter friends out there, you could probably go in a fabric store and you can just, pick this, pick this, pick this, and you just know they're all going to marry together really well. I'm so used to garment sewing for so many years that I tend to be very matchy. So sometimes I have a hard time picking colors that will go nice together, but maybe are in a whole different color palette or color, variation. So I picked a lot of the colors for the book based on what would photograph well, not maybe necessarily what I would wear. So in this case, I picked this beautiful olive green, which looks great on a lot of people. I've taken pictures of some people with this wrap on and they look great in it, but olive green is not my color. So I went and found some scarf fabric that would be suitable for a scarf, made a scarf and looked at that scarf and said, what colors did they use? Well, they have that kind of olivey green. They got a little lighter green, and then they had that beautiful peachy color. So that's what I used for my color scheme here. There's also brown there, which again, I would never pick brown thread for me, for my color palette, the garments that I embroider, but that was perfect for it. So the little accents here are in brown. So this kind of silky, slippery fabric is ideal for working on the serger, just because it's tricky to handle on a sewing machine. And you'll see when we do one of the stitches in there, actually what I'm talking about. So Linda says she'd would like the cover stitch, the one with hidden cleaner stitches. So I'm not exactly what you're referring to, Linda, but a cover hem machine can be a combination with a serger that does serger stitches. It can also be a separate machine. In the brother world, there's a separate cover hem machine. And when you think of a cover hem, think of a machine that does top stitching. Yes, you might use some of those stitches on the edge, but it's essentially a top stitching machine, whereas a serger with traditional serger stitches is more all about edging and finishing edges or sewing edges when you sew seams. And I see who was it that said they were color challenged as well, and Vicki likes the ideas for colors. Yeah, it's a great way for embroidery. I know we're talking sergers today, but can't help but give you a little bit on the embroidery side. On the embroidery side, I will often look for a piece of fabric. I might even buy a little piece of that fabric just because the colors are so beautiful, and then use that in whatever scheme that I'm trying to put together with my embroidery machine, because an artist who's well-trained and has a lot of talent in that area has picked out those colors, just like you see here, and they can do a better job than I can, and then I can just imitate that, right? Imitation, sincerest form of flattery. So I hope you'll imitate some of my techniques today. Linda says, which one does t-shirt hem? So a cover hem, yes, would be the kind that you would traditionally see on t-shirts, sweatshirts, sportswear, and that type of thing. So again, whole different ball game. All right, so let's talk on another little scarf technique here. Here's another one I have here. And if you remember last month, again, we used this knit fabric. Well, I took that same knit fabric, simply cut it along the full width, which was about 60 inches. And then when I make a scarf, I generally go from about 10 to 12 inches wide, and then anywhere from 56 to 70 inches long. So what I recommend you do when you're actually making a scarf for yourself and you want to make a regular scarf that you can tie and drape in different areas. By the way, that's another fun subject. There's a lot online that you can find of people that are expert scarf tiers. But if you're going to make a scarf, think in that range, anywhere from about 10 to 12 inches wide, and then about 56 to 70 inches long. And take a tape measure and drape it around your neck, or take a soft piece of scrap fabric and cut it and see what you like. A lot of us are going to want to vary that length and width to proportion with ourselves. I happen to be a little on the shorter side. I'm about 5'3.5" right now. So that's a little on the shorter side. And if I have a scarf that's too long, it's going too long on me. So just think about that, and check out what's going to work for you. The beauty of making something yourself is you are not limited to what you can purchase in the store already made. You can make it yourself, you can make it better, and you can make it suit yourself perfectly. All right, so what did I do on this one? Well, I've got a little sample for you that I'm going to show a little closer to the camera because you can't see it. But if you remember this fabric, I'm going to grab a piece out of my little bin here just so you can see it. This fabric was a lightweight rayon knit, rayon blended knit. I think it had a little bit of polyester in it, and it's super, super, super stretchy on the crosswise grain. So I took advantage of that super stretchiness, and I set my machine up just for a narrow hem. You can either use a 2-thread or a 3-thread. I'll show you just a little bit on the 2-thread when we get over the machine, but that just creates a very, very narrow stitch. And I'm going to put this really close to the camera so that you can see it. Let it focus for a minute there. Okay. So you can see that's just a very narrow stitch. It's the same width that we would use for a rolled hem with only 2 threads, but it's balanced. It's an actual balanced stitch, meaning it's not rolling the fabric over. You'll see that when I set up for a rolled hem. But what that allowed me to do is, as I was serge finishing that edge, I stretched it, and it just created that little bit of a ripply effect. We can call that a lettuce edge. You can kind of see on this one, I rippled it a little bit better. So you can see there's that curly effect. That is usually what we don't want to happen when we're serging knits. And we would want to counteract that with our differential feed, but we actually want it to stretch out so that it does curl and give us that little bit of a ripply effect when it's stitched. So Tiffany asked, how do you keep it from rolling up on you? Well, that in this case, it's going to roll up no matter what, and that's okay. It's going to happen. What you want to do is make sure that you're always trimming a bit of fabric off. So if it's going to start to curl, because you can see how it's curling on that other side, it's going to curl up along that edge that I want to stitch on. So I'm going to have to cut beyond that curl. And I actually, when I did this scarf, I cut off almost an inch. So I cut my fabric wider, and then I cut off about an inch as I was serging. Now, the beauty of making a scarf like this is we're just finishing those 2 crosswise edges, and the knit doesn't ravel. So on the end of the knit, which would have been the selvage end, I simply trimmed off a little bit of the excess. So when you're doing this, you want to cut a little bit wider, and then you want to cut a little bit longer if you have that possibility for the length of the fabric. And then when you're done, you can just trim it right on that edge. Most of the time, your thread's not even going to ravel. If it does, then you can use just a little bit of the seam sealant. Very, very little bit is the key word. And then when I use a seam sealant, I don't have a bottle here in front of me, but we all know what that is. Freight Check is a brand name. When you use that, you always want to dab it with a little bit of tissue or a paper towel so that you absorb any of the excess. Okay, so again, Tiffany, the trick is when something rolls, give yourself some extra width, let it roll, and cut beyond where it's rolling. So that makes life easier for you. Yeah, Dawn, hey Dawn from Creative Appliques, you do see my Band-Aid. I have a whole package of sewing theme Band-Aids, and I won't go into all the details, but some of you know that I embroidered my finger a while back, and it's still not as pretty looking as I would like it to be. So I'm covering it up for all of you today. So try not to get distracted by my Band-Aid finger here. Okay, so let's talk about threads. Threads can make all the world of difference on your edge finishing with a serger. And I'm going to show you a few samples here. First of all, I want you to know, and I want you to realize that finding these serger threads can be like a hunt for treasure. I did find a lot of possibilities on Sewing Machines Plus website, and I'll throw out a brand name that you can do. You can do some search on there for yourself, and the brand name is called Wonderfil. Wonderfil. So think wonderful, but with an I instead of the U. And you will find threads of that brand right there on the Sewing Machines Plus website. And they have a great help on their website where you see that little chat pop up. I happen to know some of those chat people, and they're there to help you. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to take advantage of that Sewing Machines Plus chat feature, because they're there to help you. So when it comes to thread, let's go into just like, from the most ordinary to maybe the most treasure hunt type. When I buy Serger thread, I love the Maxi brand. So that's also something you can purchase on Sewing Machines Plus. When I buy Serger thread, I usually buy, I don't have it here, so you're going to see a contrast here, but I usually buy 4 spools, all the exact same color. And that's like my go-to for buying serger thread, because when I'm going to sew an actual seam with my serger, I'm going to generally use all 4 threads. I'm going to use 2 needles and 2 loopers. So I would need all of those colors, ideally to match or to blend. So let's talk about blending. Obviously, the blue is a big contrast, but the tan really isn't that different from the cream. So you can think about this. When you're purchasing thread for your serger, if it's going to be for an actual seam and not something that's going to show on the outside, you can mix and match your threads. The 2 most important threads, and this is absolutely critical. It's a key element. And if you remember this, you can mix and match your threads. If you've got a print or you've got a fabric that's a little bit of an unusual color and you're serging a seam and you don't have all 4 threads to match, the 2 that should match the best is your left needle, because we're using 4 threads, we're using 2 needles, and your lower looper. Okay. So all those other 2 threads in between, the right needle and the upper looper, can be blenders. Now, if you're the type that, you want to look inside your garment and see all the colors exactly the same on the top and bottom of your stitch, fine. Then you're going to want all 4 threads. Mine are already over there on the machine, so I can't hold them up for you. But you'd want all 4. Otherwise, if you remember that tip, that the left needle and the lower looper are the 2 most important to match your fabric, you can go a long way with blending. Now, why are those 2 the most important to match? Because if you were to stitch that seam and the seam would get pulled a little bit from the outside of the garment, from the right side, you would see those 2 threads. You would see the left needle and you would see the lower looper. You would not see the upper looper and you would not see the right needle. Okay, try it out. If you've got a serger, thread it up with with 2 matching threads in the left needle and the lower looper, and 2 totally contrasting threads in the upper looper and the right needle, and see what you get. Okay, you'll be surprised. So ordinary serger thread is something that I use a lot, and I'm going to use it today because it looks perfectly fine on the fleece that I've selected for the project. So the key is with serger thread is good quality. There's good, better, best, and bad. And Maxi is a really good brand. It's very consistent, and yet it's reasonably priced. You can get higher priced serger threads. To me, most of the time, they're not worth it. But if you get the lower priced ones or the off-brand ones, they can be a lot fuzzier. They can break a lot easier, and they're just not worth it. When you spend a little bit more money, you'll get something better there. All right, another popular thread, and there's multiple different kinds, is something we call a woolly thread. And it's called woolly because it's a little bit fuzzy. The characteristic of this thread is that when it stretches to go through the machine, it gets a little bit thin, but as it's released, it fluffs out. And I know it's always hard to show on camera, but if you were looking at this in person, you'd see it's about twice the width once it's relaxed. So it will relax on the fabric and it will give really, really good coverage. It is one of my favorite threads to use for edge finishing on fleece. So this is a fleece blanket, which we're going to do scarf material today, but on a fleece blanket, we're essentially doing the same stitch. And the beauty of this is that it fills in a little bit thicker without you having to shorten the stitch length too much. So makes a really, really good edge finish. The key with woolly type threads is they come in either nylon or polyester. And polyester is a little bit more durable as far as heat. But in most cases, when I'm using woolly nylon type thread or woolly poly type thread, I am not using it on something that's going to get heavy ironing. I'm probably going to use it on something that's not even going to get ironed at all. So that's not a concern for me. I would use this in the upper looper and the lower looper, and I would use standard ordinary serger thread in the needle. Just pick something that would blend with that, and I would use a wide 3-thread stitch. Okay. So that thread is again readily available, but sometimes you can't find the color you want. So you can always fall back on ordinary serger thread. Another option, perfectly viable option, is to use standard ordinary sewing machine thread. Again, you want to look for good quality polyester because it's strong. Our serger thread is polyester as well. And the beauty of this thread is that it's readily available. I'm going to see if you can see that pink a little bit. Comes in multiple colors, and that makes it really easy to find. However, there's nowhere near as much thread on here as there is on here. So only for small projects. But if I'm doing a scarf, which is kind of the theme of the day here, I'm certainly going to have enough of this thread. One spool for the upper looper, one spool for the lower looper. Maybe I'll go ahead and get a cone for the needle, or I'll get a third spool and use that in the needle. I've been known to actually wind a bobbin and use a wound bobbin as one of my spools. That can be a little tricky though. You want to make sure that you are careful with that because it'll run out really fast and your bobbins can bounce around a little bit. So you want to sew a little bit slower with that. All right, what about thicker fancy threads? Well, you heard me talk about Wonderfil. Wonderfil makes thread. I couldn't find my red spool, so I pulled out this one. A thread called Razzle, and they make a thread called Dazzle. This is a thicker thread than could go through a needle on a sewing machine. It's not meant for sewing machine. It's an embellishment thread, but it goes perfectly through the loopers on your serger because the loopers have larger eyes than needles do. And then I just use a standard ordinary serger thread in the needle. So look for some of these. I know Sewing Machines Plus has a good selection of the Wonderfil thread. Another thread that is a possibility, because we're looking for, remember, a thread that's a little different, a little special, maybe a little thicker, would be 12 weight thread. And 12 weight thread can be used sometimes for embroidery, but I love it for serger stitching. And again, I can use this in the upper looper and the lower looper. Could I use in the needle? Yes, but it's kind of a waste in the needle. So I would just pick a regular thread. And Jana says she's used Razzle in the past, but her serger didn't like it. Okay, Jana, thank you for bringing up that point, because every serger has their own personality, and the higher you go, in the better quality, the better chance you have of working with, again, what I call treasure threads that are unique and special. So all of the samples that you see me showing today, whether, you know, in something already stitched or just a little fabric scrap sample, were stitched on my Brother Airflow 3000. So I'm one of those like show me types. And when I got the machine, the first thing I did was pull out all the threads that I've used for embellishment over the years and put it through the paces. And it again came out with an A++. There is a little bit of time spent testing and adjusting tensions when you get into those fancier threads. But again, if you have a good quality system, uh, it's not as tricky as you might think. All right, another one that I found on Sewing Machines Plus. My spool is a little bit different because I actually have I've got a couple spools from the company that manufactures these. So one of them was an actual sample. This is a fuzzy thread. It's a yarn type thread, and it's called Filaine. So I'm going to spell it for you. Filaine. Check myself, make sure. Yes, Filaine. And I did find some spools of this on a regular type of cone on Sewing Machines Plus. This thread is fabulous for edge finishing because it's the closest thing you will get to finding spools of yarn that are ready to put right on your serger. So let me show you the sample of that up close on the camera. And in this case, I used a 3-thread wide stitch with my left needle, and I put that Filaine fuzzy yarn type thread in both the upper looper and the lower looper. And with a balanced stitch, this looks as beautiful on the wrong side as it does on the right side. It's basically like a match. So this is another treasure thread to search for. It's actually made by Sulky, which makes a whole lot of different threads, but this was a kind of a new one for me, and something that I have really enjoyed using. Now, when we get into thicker threads, we want to do one thing to start with on our serger, and that is increase our stitch length. So an average stitch length is about 3 on the serger. I automatically go all the way to 4, and then I just keep working my way down until I get a look that I like. You will also find with most thick threads and with woolly type threads that you're going to need to use a little bit looser tension than you normally would. So how loose is loose? I don't know until you test. And even within the same model, some machines could be just slightly different. So start with standard. In fact, here's another big tip of the day. When you're going to do anything unusual on your serger or or decorative on your serger, always start with a 4-thread balanced stitch. And your manual will give you the approximate tension settings for that type of stitch. Put good quality cone thread on there, stitch that out on medium weight fabric, take a look at it. If that looks good, you know your serger is in happy condition. Okay, it's working well. When you go then to change, like my friend, who was it that said her surgery didn't like a certain thread. When you go to change to that certain thread and you start, you know, lengthening the stitch, adjusting the tension, and things don't go smoothly, then you know there's nothing wrong with your serger. It was that particular thread just wasn't happy in your serger, or you need to do some more testing. So on the subject of testing, always buy extra fabric and always cut long strips for your testing strip. How long? Long, as long as you can get. I usually cut the whole width of the fabric because when I'm stitching, I want to be able to stitch a little bit at a time, then check the stitch, then make my adjustments, then stitch another little bit at a time, especially when I'm using these fancy schmancy Razzle Dazzle type threads. and I don't want to waste any of this. Cone thread, inexpensive, readily available. I'm not concerned about that. But when I'm testing with this thread, I don't want to use up any more than I need to. So by cutting long strips and doing my testing, by stitching, looking, I'm not wasting every time I chain off. So that's another big tip of the day. If you cut little pieces and each time you chain off, you have a length of thread this long at the beginning, at the end, you've just wasted all that thread. So long and enough that's going to get you where you need to go. Somebody said, when you say balanced, what do you mean? Dorothy, that's a great question. I suggest you find your manual for your machine. One of the things I love about the Brother World is the manuals are all online, and very often I tuck mine away in a safe place. And when I want to refer to something, I just bring it up online so that I can look at it there. You just need to go to the support page for your particular model and you can find it. But if you look in your manual, every manual I've ever seen on a serger will show a balanced stitch. And a balanced stitch is when the upper looper is going from the needle thread to the raw edge, nice and straight and even. The lower looper is doing the same thing, and everything is smooth, even, and the thread is where it belongs. So your picture in your manual will show you where the thread belongs. Okay, so what else do I have? So we talked about that one. We talked about that one. We've covered just about all the threads. Here's another sample here, and this is one of the things we're going to be working with today. Just plain old ordinary serger thread. So you decide. When I show you this next to this, I realize we're talking different colors, but we're talking the same fabric. This was done with the woolly type thread. This was done with ordinary thread. I'm perfectly happy with the way this looks. So do I need fancy thread? Not all the time, only when I want it, or I want to imitate that kind of yarn look or that thicker cord style look. All right. Okay, so one other just quick note, if you are using standard spools, the machine comes with little spool caps, just think of them like little hats. These are designed to go over the cap, so if you have anything rough on the edge of the cap, the thread will spin out around it. Now, when we do that, it means that in most cases, we're going to want to take off our cone holder, because the cone holder could inhibit that. So give it a try, test your own machine, and see what works best for you. Okay, it looks like another good question. If you use cotton thread, should all thread be cotton, or is it okay to mix? Jana, that's another great question. So generally speaking, you are not going to use cotton thread on your serger unless it's possibly a specialty thread. But in most cases, the specialty threads that are a little bit thicker are going to be a synthetic. If you use cotton on your serger, you're going to have to serge at the slowest speed you can possibly get away with, because cotton thread will break too readily. That's why serger thread is 100% polyester, and the Filaine is actually an acrylic thread, so it's also very strong. The woolly poly and the woolly nylon is very, very strong. Cotton thread, when it's going through the serger, it gets run through so quickly that it puts a little too much tension on the thread, and it could cause breaking. So, Jana, yeah, try the 12. Think of the 12 weight cotton. That's another great question. I love reading your questions. Is 12 weight, this is a 12 weight thread, but it's a 12 weight polyester, I think. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, I think this one's polyester. 12 weight thread is thicker. So if it's thicker, it's going to already be a little bit stronger. So I would not be afraid to try that. Yeah, Anne says Sulky 12 weight blendables work perfect for her. And Anne, let me know, because I've seen that thread, but I don't actually have a spool. I believe, is that cotton? Let me know, Anne, in the chat if that is cotton. So again, you're going to be okay because of that extra thickness of the thread. All right, so we're going to head over to the serger now. I'm going to switch the camera. And good, my camera went on and off today. So let me go over there. If something happens and it doesn't go back on, we'll do another little switch. Okay, there we go. All right, so another real quickie that I just want to let you know about on the Serger Airflow 3000 Brother Serger is it comes with extra feet. So if you want to compare on Sewing Machines Plus, they have the Model 3000 and they also have Model 1800. And the 1800 is essentially the same machine, but it comes with less goodies. So for a little bit more money, you're getting a whole lot extra with the Airflow 3000. You're getting a gathering foot, which allows you to gather and sew at the same time. We can maybe do another show on that one day. You're also getting a blind hem foot, which can be used for hemming or for other finishes where you need an extra guide. That's the blind hem foot. And then it also comes with a piping foot. So you can actually make piping on your serger very, very fast because it's got a groove underneath there that dressmaker weight piping fits under perfectly. It's not your home decor weight, it's a dressmaker weight, but it works beautifully. One of my favorite little tricks, I can't help but share it with you today, is using this foot to cover extra piping that I have that either was leftover color I don't need anymore, or a color that I don't like, or a color I found on sale. And I will cut a new bias strip and then simply feed that cord through and recover it. All right. The beauty of this machine is in the threading. So I've already got my needle threaded up to the threading position. I'm going to go ahead and snap off the foot. And I often do this when I'm showing so that you can see a little bit better. And I'm going to take just a little piece of paper here. I'm going to put it behind so that hopefully, is that going to make it see a little bit better? I don't think that's going to help. So I'll let you just get zoomed in here a little bit. All right, so hopefully you can see that needle. My needle is right here. There it is. There's the eye of the needle. I've threaded the machine in the normal way. I'm going to feed it into the first guide here, second guide here, and then I'm going to cut it like it tells me on the side. I'm going to make sure that my machine is set with my hand wheel. Move my little accessories here. With my hand wheel notches matching, and that's readily shown on the actual hand wheel. And then it's a simple matter of me just smacking down that needle threader. And again, I know you can't see this as perfectly as I can, but look what happened. The machine pushed the loop of thread right through the eye of the needle, and I didn't even have to see a thing there. Absolute perfection. All right, we're going to thread the lower loopers now, and I mean the upper looper and the lower looper now. And that uses air jet threading. So I'm going to scooch this camera over just a little bit so you can see that a little bit better. The first thing we're going to do is make sure that our machine is not set for stitching. It's instead set for threading. And again, I have actually got my upper thread. I'm going to tilt you just a little bit here so you can see. I've already got that in the thread guides that I need for that. And I'll get you back in position here for threading. This threader works so good. Get you up just a little bit more that I don't even bother tying on my threads anymore. I want to get you just a little bit higher there. Okay, because I want you to be able to see the button and the holes. Notice that it tells me right off the bat here, I know what I got to do. I got to zoom out. It tells me right off the bat here that this is not a place to oil your machine. You know, most of us don't like reading the manuals. The manuals are full of golden information, but it's also nice when they put a warning here to basically just tell you what should or should not be done. So these are not spots for oiling. They're threading ports. So I'm just going to pull the thread down. And in the manual, they tell you you need about 12 inches of thread. What I do is I just simply pull the thread down until it touches the plate of my machine. And again, I'm going to just show you where that's at. Right here. I'm going to pull that thread down there so that when I bring it back up, I've got the same amount coming up as I have touching that plate. I find that that's just about the right length of thread. Move you back in position here now. And then it's a simple matter of tucking the thread into the hole about a 1/2 inch. Now, again, I told you how cold it was here today. What that means is I've got static going on like crazy, so the thread tends to want to dance a little bit. I can thread both of these at once, but I'm going to do one at a time. So I'm going to simply press that button. Oops, there we go. Make sure I'm locked in. Did you hear that little click? That means I'm locked into the right position, and boom. My lower looper has been thoroughly and completely threaded, all those hidden places that I can't even see, and the eye of the looper itself is boom, threaded, just like that. All right, I'm going to do the lower looper. And on this machine, we don't have to worry about the actual order. So again, I put my finger down on the table there and make a loop that's going to take me back up. I need another about a little 1/2 inch. See if this one dances with the static too. I just put that in and press the button. Oops, I wasn't quite there. Again, that static can really throw you for a loop. There we go. Now my lower looper has been threaded, my upper, my lower, my needle, all without me having to see a thing. In fact, I'm not even very close to this machine. I'm a little bit of a distance away. So I've already got this set up for a rolled hem. How do I set it up for a rolled hem? Well, the first thing I do is I remove my left needle. My left needle would normally be screwed in right here and would be right next to this needle. Yes, realize that when you have 2 needles in the machine, they will not be the same length. Another thing I want you to realize is that when you remove a needle and you loosen that screw, you should not have to loosen it very much. It should just be slight, and you should be able to take that needle out and then just leave that screw. You don't have to tighten it back down. Leave it as is. You don't want to tighten a screw back into that area where it could be tightened in there too tight. So just leave it. You're not going to have it very tight to begin with. Now, I talked earlier about a 2-thread stitch, and we're not going to actually do this stitch today, but I want to show you how easy it is to set up this machine for that stitch. What I would do is I would use either the left needle or the right needle and the lower looper only. So my upper looper thread would not be in the machine. And I would take just this little, I'm going to call it a gizmo. It's called a 2-thread converter. And I would just snap it into the eye of the upper looper. That would not have thread in it, and it would cause my lower looper to rise up above and catch my needle thread so that I could do a perfect 2-thread stitch. When I'm back to doing a 3-thread like I am now, I would just need to thread that looper and release that. Okay, so for a rolled hem, the first thing we're going to do is set the stitch length close to R. R on the stitch length stands for rolled hem, so pretty simple. But you could also play with that length a little bit. You don't have to be on the R. You could be a little bit longer than it, or a little bit, a little bit more room in your stitch. But I'm going to go ahead and start at R. My cutting width is at R. My blade is up, so I'm going to show you where my blade goes down is from this lower lever here. I'm going to show you where that lever is. Right here. And really, I use the word down. It should be disengaged, because when I re-engage this, it's got a great little picture here showing that I am cutting or I'm not cutting. When I'm not cutting, that blade simply will not move up and down. It will just stay stationary. So it's still there, but it's not cutting. When I flip back over to the cutting position, Now that blade will go up and down, and the upper blade will cut against the lower blade, just like scissor action. All right, next thing before I can stitch is to change the machine from threading to stitching, and now I can actually show you the stitch starting to form, and you can see that blade going up and down. All right, move you back up into position here. Okay, I'm gonna close the doors. All right, I'm missing questions for a little while. I see Anne says she uses her serger about 50% of the time. Yeah, it's great for knits, but it's also perfect for wovens. They're just, I mean, I could talk all day about the wonders of a serger and why they are so valuable to have in your sewing space. All right, I'm going to pop this foot back on, and look how easy it is to replace that foot. You just lower the presser foot, snaps right on. And I'm going to take a piece of sheer fabric, because we talked about everything from shears to fleece. And before we actually do the fleece, I want to show you a couple tips for serging on shears, because that a lot of our scarf type fabrics, especially for warm weather wear and lightweight, we would want to use some type of a georgette or a chiffon. Polyester is very readily available and can make a beautiful, beautiful scarf. Again, kind of think about what sizes you want. If you want to make square scarves, that's fine too. Then you just fold them up, and you get whatever you want as far as width when you fold them. All right, so we're just going to go for it and see what happens, and then I'm going to give you a few more extra tips on this. Very often, when I do a shear like this, I'm going to increase the stitch length. So I'm going to start with the R. I'm going to do a few inches. And I'm going to take a look at that. And yep, that's pretty good. Although I did not change my tension to what it needs for a rolled hem. So let me get that lower looper tightened up. Again, my manual gives me all the guidelines for that. So I highly recommend that you do that. If you have the access to the online, you can just print that page if you want and keep it for reference, or the pages that have the tension adjustment. All right, I'm going to go a little, I'm going to do a few inches more. Notice that I'm cutting. Now I'm cutting a lot today, but you always want to cut at least a little bit. Now I'm getting a really nice stitch there, but sometimes when I'm serging on this type of fabric, it is so loosely woven and comes apart so readily. Look at how that's fraying, that my stitch will not stay on. And that's exactly what happened to me here. So it's a good thing, because you want to see what to do if it happens to you. There's a very easy fix. What I do is I take Sewing Machines Plus StayPerfect water soluble stabilizer. You can either layer it under or over. I'm going to do it under so you can still see the fabric. I am going to lengthen my stitch a little bit, because the longer the stitch is, the less it will cut into that fabric. And I would just cut narrow strips, and I would serge right through those layers. And look what happens. My stitch is formed perfectly on that fabric, and it does not pull off, and it will not pull off, because when the stitch formed, it formed with that stabilizer on the back. I can then simply trim that to size, trim away the excess, just like that. Throw that in the wash. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the machine. And I'm going to have a beautiful finish without the worry of that pulling off of the fabric. So trust me, it works. I've done this many, many times. It's a great method to use on really fine, slinky, loose woven fabrics like chiffon and georgette. All right, so I've got to do a little bit of a switcheroo here, and I'm going to switch to a 3-thread wide stitch before I show you the puller fleece. So I'm going to go ahead and let you watch me go through the process here. I'm going to, again, raise the presser foot. I'm going to go ahead and take it off. This is something I do readily. If you see how easy this foot is to snap on and off, and that makes it easier for you to get in there and get access, go for it. I'm doing it just because it gives you a little bit better visibility. So I need to take my needle out of the right hand position, and I'm going to put it in the left. So again, watch me do as I say, do as I do here. I'm going to loosen that needle screw just a little bit. My needle drops out. Yes, there are tools that you can get that will hold the needle. I'm not sure if this machine comes with one. I have to tell you, I'm a little bit bad about mixing my tools together. And if you look for a tool like that, it's very handy because it'll allow you to hold the needle and push it up as you are tightening that screw. But watch, I did not tighten that screw back down because I only had to loosen it a little bit. And my screw was already loose on the left. So I'm just going to snug it up. Always going to make sure that it's in there tight. Again, I'm having to reach over here. You want that snug. Get that in there. All right, I am missing something here. Let me get a little closer to the machine. Get that in, so bear with me here. And again, if you've got any questions so far, maybe save the rest of them till we get to the end so that I can make sure that I answer all of them. We call this sewing yoga when you're trying to sew with a camera in your way. Okay, am I in the right place? Yeah. Okay. So it does pay to be turning the right screw. I had the wrong screw. I had the screwdriver in the wrong screw. Very good. That is nice and tight. Okay, so I'm now going to rethread because I am in the right needle position. I want to be in the left. So I'm going to snap that in. Threading a needle on a serger is a lot like threading it on a sewing machine. And I love, love, love this automatic needle threader. So you're going to see that again. Again, remember, it always should be locked in. I want to let you hear this. I'm going to open my door. Set it to threading, not sewing, and listen for that little click. There you go. That tells me I'm set for threading, whether I'm threading my loopers or my needle. Right into there, cut it. I'm going to change this now from right to left, in the left position. Sometimes if you do it a little too fast, it won't go in. Let me see, am I in the right spot? Nope, I'm not in the right spot. Of course, my right one threaded perfectly. Get that over there. All right, we're going to do it the old-fashioned way for now, just so we can get through this. It does work when you do it correctly. It might be my static going a little crazy. You saw me do it before. And your thread is naturally fuzzy, so you're going to want to probably clip that at an angle. so that it makes it a little easier to put through. But you'll have to trust me on that, that if I had a little more time, I would do that over again. And we'll get this back, popped back on there. Now I want to show you another little trick, because I'm really close to getting that on, but I'm not quite there. That foot did not snap on. So if we reach behind where the clamp is, that we release that foot and we press that clamp again, it will open up that little claw and grab right onto that foot. So if you can't get the foot on with just lowering it, then go ahead and try that. All right, now I want to switch over and I want to do a wide 3-thread stitch. So I'm going to change now from that cutting width to my to a wider width. I want that blade to move a little further away. Generally, it's going to be on about 5.5 to 6.5. I'm going to go right about 6. And go back to that. I'm going to lengthen my stitch a little bit. And let's do just a little scrap piece to see how this looks. Again, I want to go back to balanced stitch. So I would look to see on this machine, generally if we're on 4, the number 4 on almost everything, we're going to get a good balanced stitch. And when we were talked earlier about what does a balanced stitch look like, this is a balanced stitch. Everything is balanced on here. I always like to take the first few stitches by hand, make sure I'm running. I did forget one more setting. Let me pop this back open. You can't see it, but there's a lever here that moves the wide stitch finger back into place, and I need a wider stitch finger with that wide 3-thread stitch. No longer doing a rolled hem or a narrow hem, but you can see how easy it is to switch from one to the other. All right, I am missing something here. Let's see. All right, my lower looper is threaded there. Is it threaded there? Let's see. Gotta love live when that happens to you. And it means that I'm missing something there. Let's see. All right, it's actually a good thing this happened, because when something like this does happen, what is the best way to troubleshoot? The best way to troubleshoot is to rethread the machine. That is one of the best things that you can do when you're having some sort of issue that you can't figure out what it is. Something has gone astray. I'm going to double check my needle here. And then you can tell me in the chat and I'll look later, has this ever happened to you? If it has, you know what it's like. Like turning around, driving, Diana. All right, so let's get this rethreaded. Fortunately, it's easy to thread. That into my threading position. Okay, upper looper is threaded. Lower looper is threaded. Get that back to stitching. All right, I suspect that I have done something with my needle. And I think it's because I just can't see where I'm going here. So get that. In position. Get that threaded. I do appreciate your patience with this. We can't always have everything go perfectly perfect, even though we like it to. I'm just not getting it in where it needs to go. All right, I think we're going to just go ahead and I'm going to go just give you a few more guidelines on this rather than take up the time to do this because we are getting close to time, and I will do a little finishing video. I'll post that on my YouTube channel and let you know what I did here. So again, all we want to do is add that to our edge. We can go all around the edge of our fleece, and when we're finished, we're going to have an edge finish that's going to look just like this. You can also do, of course, the rolled hem on your sheer fabrics, and we know that that little tip there of using that stabilizer can make all the difference in the world on this fine fabric. All right, I'm going to switch back over to the regular camera here and see if you have any more questions for me. All right, so we didn't do too bad. We just didn't finish. And like I said, you know, usually that doesn't happen, but I'm probably missing something there because I'm trying to get in between that camera and the machine. And I want to see what I did, and I will certainly let you know. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you will give it a try. I hope you'll do some exploring with some of these decorative threads and watch for more. We've got lots more goodness coming through the Sewing Machines Plus channel on Tuesdays. And in fact, I have to tell you that I'm going to be having a special show next Monday, January 27th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to be doing a live show with my guests, Becky Thompson from Power Tools with Thread, Carly Bell, and Jane Klaus. All of us are going to be together. We're going to talk about our plans for this year for helping you, Sewing Machines Plus friends and family, with your sewing, crafting, quilting projects. We're all here to share what we've learned and share projects with you so that we can have one big, beautiful sewing time together. So please, if you're on my email list, letsgosew.com, you'll get notification for that. And I promise to do a little finishing video for the scarf that I didn't get to finish today. Hope I'll see you next Monday and next month on Sewing Machines Plus Takeover Tuesday. Happy stitching, everybody. Bye-bye.